All right. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. Alrighty. Why don't we get started? Okay. Thank you for joining tonight's conversation. How do I launch my career in data? You're joined by speakers Partha Padmanabhan and Satyen Kansara. My name is Carrie Williams. I'm the Communications and Information Officer here at Extension. I'm joined by my colleague, Jim Kosteka. Jim is Program Manager of our Engineering and Technology Department. We're planning on about 45 minutes for tonight's session, and we have a lot we're excited to share. We're looking forward to an interactive conversation. So I'm going to just take a quick look at our agenda tonight. We'll begin with introductions, and then we'll launch into our speaker presentations. Partha is going to provide an overview of our two new Stackable short programs, data science and data engineering. And then Satyen will take it from there with some tips to grow your data analysis and data engineering skills quickly and effectively. We'll wrap up with some Q&A. I have just a few very quick housekeeping items, and I'll hand things over to our speakers. One, I think we're a relatively small group tonight, so if you're comfortable, we encourage you to turn your cameras on. It's always nice for us to connect some names with faces. Two, as I said, we do have some time dedicated for Q&A at the end of the session. If any questions pop up for you during the conversation, feel free to add those to the chat. Jim and I will do our best to answer them as they come up. If we're not the best resource, we're happy to surface them up to our speakers, and they can, we'll just interject as soon as they have time to share their insights. If for whatever reason we're not able to get to your question tonight, or if you think of something later, you can always email us at extension@ucsc.edu. And then finally, we are recording tonight's session. So be on the lookout in the coming days for a follow-up message with the link to that recording, as well as some helpful resources to help fill out tonight's conversation. Sorry, I'm just making sure everyone's in from the waiting room. Okay. Alrighty. So before I hand things off, let me give you a quick intro of our speakers. We're so lucky to be joined by our industry experts tonight. We have Partha Padmanabhan. Partha is a data architect with more than 25 years of experience in the field. He is an instructor and chair of our data science and data analytics certificate program, as well as chair of those two new short programs I just mentioned, data science and data engineering. We're keeping Partha very busy this year. We're also joined by Satyen Kansara. Satyen is head of data and visualization at Illumino. He teaches big data introduction and data engineering with Hadoop. So with that, I'm going to stop my share, and I'm going to hand things over to Partha.
Thank you, Carrie. Hello, everyone. Good evening. I'll be sharing my screen and talk about the Stackable chart programs. Good evening and welcome, everyone, to this quick webinar at UCSC Silicon Valley Extension. I'm proud to be associated with the extension for more than a decade. So I've been teaching quite a few courses, but today, we'll talk about, the prospective students as you and how you can benefit from the courses. What is the right fit for you? What are the courses that you can take, and so on. So the topic of this webinar: how do I launch my career in data? Right? So if you're already familiar with a little bit of data, or you're already working on it, but wanted to improve your career in data, or if you're stepping in new into the data world, how do you launch yourself, right? So there are a couple of short programs that Silicon Valley Extension is launching quickly, right? So we'll talk about that. So there are two Stackable short programs. One is a data science specialization, and the second one is the data engineering specializations. Right. So two different things. And then, one might ask, which one is right for me? Right. And you can ask, which one should I choose within these two programs? Is it data science or data engineering? What is the difference between these two? And then, which one should I be going forward and take as my path? Right. So there are two courses, like I said. One is, the data science specialization, which consists of three different courses. Right, Python for data analysis, and then data analysis introduction, and dashboards, and data visualization. So all of these are part of the data science specialization as a short track course. Right, so these three programs, they are intended to be core on data, analyzing the data, and visualizing the data. right? So these courses, it requires a little fundamentals on programming, not too much, but of course, these courses will teach you how to code in Python versus R and so on. But, little basics and fundamentals of programming would be definitely advantageous. And then also there is some kind of, statistical programming involved as well. These courses will cover on top of that. And the third one is being the data dashboards and data visualization. It's core of data visualization, right? How do I get familiarized myself with creating dashboards and data visualization? And we'll be using one of the industry's top visualization tool, Tableau, if you all know already. So we'll be using this Tableau as the tool for this dashboards and data visualization course. So if you take this particular path of data science specialization and complete these 3 courses, right, you will get a skill badge, which is on the bottom of the screen, which says that, data science as the skill badge with a specialization on these 3, right, primarily focusing on the data visualization and analysis. The next one, that's a totally different path, which is data engineering specialization. This deals with the core of the database, right? How I can choose a specific database methodology, like it could be a relational database and then do some SQL programming on top of that, or can I be a database designer? And then the third one being the data engineering with Hadoop. So big data has been there in the industry for quite a while now. And then how I can, leverage the Hadoop skills and then, be expert in data engineering. So this is the second track of the short program, which again gives you the skill badge on data engineering specialization. So those are all the 2 short track programs, which we are launching today. And, you can choose either one of them or both of them, right? So how do I decide and what is the next step for you? So once you complete both of these skill badges or take either one of those short programs and get 1 skill badge, then if you wanted to pursue further, I'm comfortable with dealing these programs. I wanted to get the, the data analytics program, data analytics and data science program certification. So all you have to do is just take big data course and then 2 more electives from the wide variety of the the courses that are available here, right? So if you take 2 of them, 2 of these electives along with the big data course, then you'll be eligible for the program certification. Okay, so that's pretty much about this short track programs, and then how you can choose either one of them, and then I'm sure the details are available in the website. If not, you can request for one and where to go and then find it out. Yeah, any questions? We can talk about it in the QA or now. Okay, I see a question over there. What is the difference between data science path and business analytics science offered by partner Greenfig? I'm not sure specifically about that partner Greenfig. The data science path here is completely focused on the data analytics, the visualization, and learning the data engineering technology, right? So these are all the focuses on the data science path. You'll be able to learn the programming skills. Okay, sorry, I wasn't sure, Jim, if you can jump in and then if you have some more information on this. The business analytics science certification offered by partner Greenfig, that'll be helpful.
Sure. My understanding of the Greenfig program is it's a 10-week course, and the programs we're talking about here today are going to take 3 to 6 months. If you go for the certificate, it's going to be 9 months. So it's going to be more intensive, more in depth, and you'll get more information.
All right. Thank you, Jim. I hope this helped a little bit. Data science is primarily focused on the technology side of it, equipping yourself with more technology, data analytics and visualization and coding and so on. So whereas the business one, like Jim explained, it's a completely different, bigger program course, which offers a wide variety of choices. If you don't have any questions at this point in time, I'll hand over the ball back to Kerry or Satyen. That's going to talk.
Partha, thank you very much for the intro. I'm just going to continue from there. So again, Kerry, she provided the introduction, but if you want to look it up, here is my LinkedIn profile. I have been teaching at UCSC Extension for more than a year now, and it's been a very pleasant experience so far. I teach 2 classes, the big data introduction as well as programming with Hadoop, right? And of course, I see some couple of familiar faces who have attended here. So thank you very much for attending. I see Belkis. Thanks a lot. So let's see. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about my own journey, because I have been in industry for more than 20 years now. And I did not start with data, but in last 7+ years, I moved from some other field, which was more of an infrastructure and telecom, into data. And I'll share a little bit of my journey, share my experiences, which could be helpful to all the participants. So, what exactly is big data? And this is a little bit for fun. Small data, it normally fits in a RAM, versus big data, it doesn't fit in a RAM and it crashes. And literally that's what it is, okay? Really big data. Now, if you see, this is a slide and data that I have taken from a website called Statista. It's the data source is there from Statista. And if you see on x-axis, it's the year over year, different years. And y-axis, it shows a zettabyte, the growth of data in zettabyte. If you see in 2010, it's 2 zettabyte versus 2025, the prediction is that it's going to be close to 190, or it might even exceed 200 zettabyte of data across the globe. And with so much data, you need skills. There is a demand of many data professionals, data engineers in various areas, and I'm going to talk a little bit about those various areas as well, right? So there is a huge demand out there, and there was a one data point which I could not pull together a slide, but I'll just share that data point. Right before COVID, as per LinkedIn, in US at that time, there were more than 200,000 jobs open, month over month on running basis, which cuts across, overall data, right? That includes data analysts, that includes machine learning engineers, that includes big data engineering engineers, that includes data scientists, right? And it's a huge number. And the field of data, it is predicted to grow, okay, year over year. So that's there. And just a little bit of perspective. If you want to see what is a zettabyte versus what a byte, which I cover in one of my class, if you consider byte and if you compare byte as a, the size of your dining room table, right? Then zettabyte is probably maybe 1,000 times Jupiter, size of a Jupiter, right? So just a little bit of perspective, right? So it's huge. It's huge, what we are talking about, right? So in data, there are different kind of roles available in the field of data. One is, data engineer. So data engineer, what they do is actually they build a pipeline, data pipeline. And if I want to give a very layman analogy, assume that or consider that you want to build a pipeline to carry some kind of fluid. So data engineers, they are the engineers who would put this pipeline together, which can carry fluid. And not only that, they would put the pipeline together, but they would move the fluid across the pipeline. Meaning, let's say if that pipeline is supposed to carry oil, and at various places you have to put various different valves, pressures, this, that, everything. So that's the job of data engineer, right? And it's a very important job. Again, many of these fields, data engineers, ML engineers, data scientists, data analysts, they are one of the highest paid, software professionals in the field of software engineering for the past few years and even going forward in near future. So that's data engineer. Now, ML engineer. So ML engineer, and before I go to ML engineer, let me go to data analyst, data scientist, and then ML engineer. So data analyst, what they do is that they actually, their job is typically making sense of the existing data, right? Versus data scientist, they figure out new ways of capturing and analyzing the data, and they derive new insight from the data, right? For example, let's say I'll give you a very quick example. Would be that consider that many of you would know what is 7-Eleven. And 7-Eleven is not a very new organization. 7-Eleven is a very old company that existed even in 1970s, right? In 1970s, the kind of data or the amount of data was at a different size. Now it is very different. In sometime in late 1970s, the parent company or the company which owned 7-Eleven, Southland Corporation, they decided that they wanted to fork off their Japanese business. Okay, and the new CEO who took over the Japanese business of 7-Eleven, he was very data savvy, right? And the one thing, the very important decision that he made after taking over the company was empowering its employees, right? And these employees, they are actually the cashiers and clerks who run the 7-Eleven stores, with 2 or 3 important data points. That every day they would get a report in the morning that what was sold in the store yesterday, what is selling in the surrounding area stores, what did it sell last year on the same date, and what did it sell when the weather was very similar the last time, right? And these were the 4 key data points that he empowered all the cashiers with. And you'll be surprised to know that for more than 30 years, the 7-Eleven Japan was one of the most profitable retailer across the globe, right? And he understood the power of data much earlier. Yes, the size of data would probably be very different, but data is very important, right? And now these days, with the size of data, you need all these new skills, right? With the big data, right? So the classes that we are offering here that will empower you to build all those skills, how to collect the big data, how to process big data, how to analyze the big data, and how to get the value out of data, how to even predict, right? Because anybody can collect the data, but getting the value out of data is very, very important. And some of the 2 specializations what Partha covered, it will help you build those skills, right? So let me now go to this is just for the information purposes. Many of you would know that this is a typical big data stack, right? Now, 7 years back, I had seen a very similar diagram, and I was very puzzled. Where do I start, really, right? Because this whole kind of chart is, I was scared, right? Where do I start? And then I had few friends plus Udemy, everything and whatnot, right? But I had hoped that I would have joined some degree or program like this, which UCSC is offering, which provides me a lot more guidance on how to navigate this whole big data journey and big data stack, right? And that's where many of our courses are designed based on our own industry experience as well, right? So this is not to scare you, but probably the whole big data stack is the ecosystem is much larger than what is captured in this slide. Okay. Let's see. This is a sample of what we are planning to cover, or what I cover in data engineering with Hadoop class, right? So typically what we cover is the big data use cases, right? And not only we cover the big data use cases, but again, big data is not a remedy or panacea for all, right? As a professional, you need to know where to use the big data and where not to use big data. It's very, very important. Because any problem, if you jump in to solve it with big data, probably you may not be making the right decision. There are problems where big data fits in perfectly well. There are problems where you need to question yourself whether should you employ the big data technology or not. Okay, so that's there. Then the second part is cover the Hadoop ecosystem, where we talk about exactly how the Hadoop started, what was the origin, what was the problem that Hadoop originally was trying to solve, how it evolved over a time, and how different components of Hadoop ecosystem evolve over time, plus what is the purpose of each and every component, what does it solve, right? Then we go into certain components which are the heart and soul of Hadoop ecosystem. And most of the big data projects would involve these components, right? So Hadoop distributed file system, HDFS, is one of those components. MapReduce is another one of those components which help you process data in a parallelly in much faster way, and when the data is like very, very large in volume, right? Spark and Spark SQL. So Spark is another competing technology with MapReduce, and we cover how Spark differs from MapReduce. Where should Spark be used? Kafka is another very popular technology. Many of you would have heard the name or used it. So we cover a part of Kafka. Then HBase, which is NoSQL database in Hadoop stack. So we cover that in great detail. And then after that, we cover the hands-on coding in the lab environment, right? So we cover HDFS, we cover HBase programming and Spark programming as well. And plus we look at very practical examples, right? So it's now in terms of programming, we cover a little bit basics of programming. If you are good at Python, it always helps. But if not, we'll cover and get you going with some basic programming in Python as well, right? Python and SQL both, right? So that will be, that's at very high level, right? What we are planning to cover in this class, okay? So now having said that, let me open up if you have any Q&A, any questions.
Hi, this is Amrita here. Can you hear me?
We can.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Hi, Partha. I've had a class with you. Hope you're doing well. And I wanted to know, how do I launch? I mean, I have some background in data, but I've had a break for around 6.5 years. So I wanted to know how I can use, if I pursue a specialization or a certification, how I can use this to showcase and get a new job or launch myself again in the data world.
Thanks for the question, Amita. Yeah, that's a good question. there are quite a few programs, people take and then try to achieve the skills and then the certification and so on, right? But, sometimes what happens is that if you go for a bigger certification, it takes a longer time for you to, complete the entire course. Maybe, you go at your own pace and then complete it, right? But in this case, the short track programs, the benefit with that one is, you are able to focus on a specific discipline, either data engineering or data science, whichever, that is comfortable and suitable for you, right? So when you take up that particular short program and then finish it and then get you not only you get the skill badge, but also, it allows you to post it as part of your, social media, right? And if you are in LinkedIn, you can have that, you got the skill badge, right? So that, boost the chances of, being looked into your profile, or probably, it could be part of your resume and so on, right? That you have completed this course, which focuses on so many varieties of programs, right? So that way, you are able to do a quick win and then get it into, be one of the top candidates for, when it comes to applying for a job.
Okay, Partha, I understood. Thank you.
All right, we've got a question from Dora, and she's asking, how in-depth is the Python course? So Partha, if somebody takes the Python for data analysis, then they take the data analysis course, will they have enough skill in Python to label that as a skill?
Good question. So there are two different courses here. One is the Python for data analysis, and then the data analysis introduction. Python, as the name states, it focuses completely on Python, right? You're going to use Python, learn Python, use Python, and then do the analytical, programming as part of that, right? Example, like, you will learn how to, get the files. For example, if the data is in a file or in a database, you will learn first how to connect to the database or to a file, open the file, and then read it. And then if you are going to perform certain analytics on top of that, like, I wanted to find out, how many, what is the real estate, I'm just giving an example. What is the real estate prices in which area? That is going to be your kind of project, right? So it helps you in finding out, how I can slice and dice the data, right? And then do some modeling on top of that, and then do some visualization on top of that. So the course, starts from the fundamentals of learning the Python until, achieving the, the proficiency that you'll get comfortable in learning, comfortable in handling Python. And the second part of the data analysis introduction, it's a similar course, but, the two biggest big differences in this data analysis introduction is it focuses on R. Okay, the class focuses on R, but at the end of the day, when it comes to the project, there is no hard and fast rule that you have to do it in R or Python. You can do it on anything. I've seen people asking these questions, and they have done it as well. So that's the first thing, right? This focus on basic R programming, right? The difference between Python and R here is Python involves more of coding, right? So whereas R, if you wanted to achieve a specific thing, you can write the programming in 2 lines and get the same thing done. So that's the advantage of taking R. And the second thing with the data analysis introduction is, it requires a little bit of statistics knowledge. Like, what is a mean? What is a median, right? What is a mode? And then, what is a regression? What is a classification? Kind of a little bit of knowledge on that. If someone wants to prep and then come for the class, that definitely helps. And then it also helps in analyzing the data and then visualizing it. That course focuses on creating stunning visualizations. Okay, R by itself helps in creating stunning visualizations. So that way, you can claim that, I can create this kind of analysis, I can create models, I can create visualizations, and so on. So that's the difference between those 2 courses, Dora, if you will. I think Stacy has a question. I don't know if I missed this, but for data science, what prerequisite is there? little bit of fundamentals on programming. Like, it's not like, you need to know Python or R or something like that, because that's what is going to be taught over there. But at least basics on programming, like, how do I approach? You declare certain variables, and then, if you know how to, perform a loop and then go over it, finding the, finding the values in a specific data set. How many missing values are there? How many null values are there? Are there any outliers? So those are the things that we are going to achieve in that. So a little bit of basic programming it's what is needed in the data science track. And how would you differentiate between business analytics course and data analytics? I think that was covered. Jim was covering earlier. Data science offered through these programs, whereas the business analytics course it's a partner rendered program, which is a longer program. It focuses both on business analytics versus, and also a little bit of non-technical stuff, right? So that's the difference between these two courses.
So we have a question if there's any prereqs for the specialization.
Like, basics of programming is what, a little bit of basics on programming or understanding the programming. That is what is needed. But, if you take, not just because I'm teaching one of those programs, the data analysis introduction, but, it starts from the basic, right? Because our programming is not too extensive. It focuses on achieving bigger things with minimum of coding. So as long as you understand what is programming and what is statistics, we are good with that.
Great, thank you. Partha, did you see there's a new question that just came in from Jessica? Can you speak more on the type of role specifically the program can lead?
More on type role specifically the program can lead into. Sure. Like Satyen added more to that. The data, if you get into the data science program, data analyst is one of the core areas that you can focus on, right? Because there is always a data analytics as a field it's prevalent everywhere in any industries, right? People want to analyze data and then get the insights out of it, right? So if you are getting into the data science as the track, the role that you will be looking for is the data analyst, right? How do I read the data? How do I find the crux of the data? And then how do I get the essence of the data and then put it in form of visualization or create some models and then find out how the data behaves and so on. So that's the role specifically from the data science certification point of view. And if you look into the data engineering, Satyen can speak more about it. It's more of like, starting with data analyst, and then if you are core into programming or, bringing the data through the pipelines, you could be leading to the data engineering background kind of thing. Satyen, if you want to add something.
Yeah, no, certainly. So from the skill point of view, let's say the data analyst part and the data engineering, it fundamentally differs in when you want to build a pipeline, and then you require in-depth knowledge of different Hadoop components. So for example, you may need knowledge of Kafka, you may need knowledge of HDFS, you may need knowledge of Spark or MapReduce. Versus if you are talking about data analyst, then your primary thing or skill would be SQL or Python, and then what Partha mentioned, right? That let's say if you are more into Java, then Spark, how to fetch, grab the data out of your data store, versus rather than building the backend, right? So that's a fundamental difference between the data engineers and the analyst, right? So analysts, they come into picture once the data is stored somewhere, versus the data engineer, they come into picture right from the source of the data, and then along the way pass the data as the data transit through different components. You may have to process the data and then finally put the data into the data store or database in a consumable form that can be consumed by the data analyst. So that's where the difference comes.
Stacy, I believe your question is answered by Jim here about the Power BI. Yes, that's true, right? The business intelligence course covers that. But as part of this data science track in the short course, the dashboards and data visualization course covers primarily on Tableau. Of course, Tableau is yet another tool, right? Power BI and Tableau. When I do the work on that, I don't find that much of difference. But if your question is focused primarily on Power BI, I can understand.
I would like to ask a question too.
Sure.
First of all, thank you so much for this introductive session. I took class from Professor Partha and Satyen. Yeah, they are awesome. During my job search, those classes really helped me a lot. And then I was able to land it on a job as a research data analyst. Thank you for all. And I have 2 classes to go. I will take them and then get the certificate for the data analysis. So my first question is about I took the relational database management SQL course, and then data analysis introduction, big data introduction, and then Python for data analysis. I wonder what is the possible course can I take to make a smooth transition to data science? And this is my first question. The second one, also, Professor Partha, you touch base on that. What's the differences between the dashboard and data visualization class and the data modeling introduction? So this is my second.
Okay.
If it's okay, I would like to ask the third one, maybe after you answer those 2.
Sure, yeah.
I would like to give chance to others.
Sure. First of all, Belkis, thanks for joining, and then really appreciate your input and feedback, and congratulations that you landed on a job. I think if I remember the question, the last one that you asked about, I'll go from the last. The difference between the dashboards and the data modeling is data modeling is the foundation for understanding the data, right? The understanding the data structure. How do I structure the data, first of all, right? What is data? How do I build it in forms of tables and columns, right? And then how do I understand the relationships, right? So that is the primary, thing that is taught in the data modeling course, right? So in data modeling, we take a specific tool called Erwin. Erwin is one of the leading data modeling tool in the industry. So taking that as the tool, the course focuses on understanding how do I build that data model conceptually, understanding. For example, if there is a company that is starting new on the data modeling, if they're laying the data foundation, we have to know, first of all, what is the data available there. So it's like a 50,000 feet bird's view of understanding what is the data available in that company. And then next you jump into logical data modeling. How do I logically segregate, what is the finance data? What is marketing data? What is manufacturing data? What is sales data? And so on. So you segregate them. And then, explain to the business in terms of how the modeling will look. Then next comes physical data modeling, which is how do I create tables? How do I add the columns and then normalize it so that, accessing becomes easier and so on. So that is if someone takes this data modeling as the course, it helps you in any of the other courses on understanding the basics or fundamentals of data. Whereas data visualization, I'm sure you're already aware of it. It's about once you know what is the data, right? The data is going to be in form of tables and columns. You read the data and then, aggregate it and then visualize it. For example, if I wanted to know what is the sales for the year, for the end of the year or by quarter, I can slice and dice the data in terms of visualization, like it could be a bar graph or a line graph or pie chart, whatever that is. So exposing the data in the form of graphics is the dashboards and data visualization. So 2 different things, right? Data modeling comes first, data visualization is at the end.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Partha, we have one more question, looks like, in the chat from Jen Martin. Can you see that?
When it comes to job hunting, is it typical for employees to ask about a portfolio, GitHub code repository, etc.? Is a portfolio something we should be compiling for definitely, right? So lot of companies, I mean, I would say that, out of 9 out of 10 companies, they are even now, most of them, they use the, GitHub as their repository to store the code. One is, it's cheaper, it's global, it's cloud, and, anyone can access from anywhere with the right access and so on. So GitHub is definitely one of the good skills, I would say that. I learned it later in my career because, when I started it, there was not GitHub or something like that. I used to start with Microsoft Visual Source Safe, and wherein I put, put the code in the repository and so on. But nowadays, everybody looks for GitHub. Not only your code, or, even if you wanted to write a small script and then put it over there, yeah, GitHub is one of the, popular requirement that goes for data analyst or data engineer and so on. Yes, that is something definitely, good to add it in your resume. Yeah, people ask for that actually. They do, or I mean, they may not ask for it if they at least see that in your resume, right? Then it adds more value to it.
Partha, can I add something on top?
Please.
Yeah, and I think the other part that the question asked, the portfolio part, right? And if you are talking about, or if the person who asked the question, if it was related to should you build some projects and put it in GitHub, then yes, the answer to that would also be yes. It gives a lot of weightage, because what I've seen, most of the candidates doing these days, even in their resume, there is a link to their GitHub account. And these days, even whether it is first line manager or even sometimes recruiters, the first thing that they do is they go ahead, they'll click on that GitHub link and see how many projects you have, whether and if you have put your code, how many other people have forked off your account, right? So that says a lot about, and that does build up your that differentiates you from other candidates.
Yeah, thanks for adding that, Satyen. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I mean, they look for contributions. How many contributions have you made to the GitHub, right? It could be your own program, or generically giving something to the society or to the community so that they can take it from there and then benefit out of it.
Any other questions? We're just at that 45-minute mark, but we're happy to hang on if there's anyone else who'd like to get their questions answered.
I would like to ask another question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I wonder, after taking the class Python for data analysis, so you built Panda and NumPy libraries of the Python and then building those skill sets. So those two classes, the first one is the Python for machine learning, artificial intelligence essentials, and the other one is the introduction to machine learning. So what's the main differences between those two classes, and then which one might be the first step to take?
Yeah. So again, it's a choice on the career and then your interest. The first one from the Python, it focuses on the data engineering purely, right? How do I use the packages, right? The NumPy or Panda, or n number of things coming in, right? So a lot of packages are coming in. So you leveraging that, you are able to reduce your coding timelines, and then and then increase your efficiency on coding, and then getting a lot of things done. So that way, your coding pipeline becomes efficient, and then a lot of people are looking for that. Right? There are a lot of variations that are also coming in today. Okay, within the Python itself, right? Like PySpark, PyCharm, and whatnot. So this particular program focuses on that. Machine learning, on the other hand, it's purely about how do I create certain programs, in Python or whatever the language that is, where I make the machines learn and then make the decision by themselves. Right. So, or it could be like, it leading towards the total data science area of, if I have to find out certain unique patterns. For example, one thing I could think of is, in the area of medicine, right? I've seen a lot of my relatives and friends focusing in that area of machine learning, where they write programs, that contributes to the medical area, right? What kind of researches are going on in that area, and then how can they create the machine learning models out of it, so that way you don't, you just provide one, and then the machine generates multiple n number of models on top of it. Like, you don't have to, it's impractical to, one person to think about like a 10 or 100 different models. Whereas if you create one, the machine learning program, it helps you generate n number of models. So that way, the same input, whatever that you give, it can be analyzed through multiple models. And then whatever that seems to be the best, it can be leveraged by companies. So that's where the machine learning is totally.
It makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, and some students, they'll take the Python for machine learning first, and it tends to give them a pretty good foundation. And then when they jump into the machine learning, the introduction to machine learning class, some of it will be review, but they'll have a good grounding in order to take those more advanced concepts.
Anyone else? All right, let me see if I can just give you one more link, which is hopefully helpful. I want to thank our speakers tonight, Partha and Satyen. Thank you so much for sharing these valuable insights, your unique perspective. I want to thank all of you for being here tonight. We recognize this is a busy, crazy time of year. We really appreciate you taking the time to join us. There's a link there to the data science and data analytics program. From there, you can find links to those 2 short programs as well as upcoming courses. As I said, we recorded tonight's event, so we'll be following up in the coming days, not just with this recording, but also with some links to those courses so you can find them directly. As always, we can be reached at extension@ucsc.edu. If you have any questions, I apologize, my light is coming in and out. But until then, we hope you have a happy and healthy holiday season, and we look forward to seeing you in the new year. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Happy holidays.
Thank you.